Alright, so opponent opening up with e4. Gonna be going for the King's Indian defense. And yeah. Okay, we see e5. Against this, you could do d6 or like c5 to punish him. I think definitely c5 is better. I could do d5 just if you guys want to like get into the typical structure. I think that's like perhaps more instructive because like c5 is fine if you want to like destroy the center, but I actually want to teach you how to maneuver around in this structure. Hopefully my opponent won't go for the en passant. Not that, you know, I'm still doing well in that position, but I want to be playing this structure. Yeah, and this is something that I'm glad to see. I'm just playing c6 like I would normally do. Not like I need it, but I wanted to just get into this typical structure. And now making this move, doing this trade, playing e6 and then h5, something like that, knight e7, knight h6. This is how you generally maneuver, but like I'm like really curious to see how these players are handling this kind of close position. So generally we'll take on f3, but we want to wait for them to provoke it. We don't just randomly take. You always want to wait for them to waste the tempo on h3 before capturing. So I'm gonna play like h5 now, that's fine. Idea to play knight h6, knight f5. After they go h3, we can take and then play h4, fixing the weak square on g3. So that's definitely an idea. Then potentially the knight could head towards g3. This is like one of actually the best ways to play against the Gurgenidze. That's what I'm recommending in my 1e4 chessable course. Against the Gurgenidze, just going for the Austrian attack. And if white knows what to do, I mean, the position is kind of meh. It's not like so bad. It's actually like incredibly tricky to break if your opponent defends well. But at some point with black, you get into a position where you just have to wait and your opponent can kind of shuffle around. And if you defend well, I mean, you can hold. But if not, you know, they can easily lose without counterplay. But I mean, that's only when you start facing Grandmaster kind of games. So before that, I think you should be good to go with this Gurgenidze. And yeah, after c4. So generally against this structure, you have ideas to take and get knight e7 to d5. But I think I'm just gonna sort of ignore it for now. Allow him to take as we get knight c6 and do the same thing with the knight getting to f5. I think that's like fairly typical. So yeah, knight f5, attacking the bishop, and then h4, h3 idea. That's actually like incredibly annoying for my opponent. And okay, on queen c2, bringing the knight, attacking the bishop, bishop f2 expected, and then h4 with h3 idea. Curious to see how we'll react against that. Like if he plays h3, we just take, and he's got like weak square on g3. It's not that we can take advantage of this square like so obvious, but definitely something that he's gonna be stressed about. And okay, on knight f3, I think interesting move is bishop h6, actually targeting the f4 pawn. And okay, against that move, he might have to play queen d2, like only move to defend. And against queen d2, trying to come up with a plan. So this might be one of those positions where you can actually take and just read out the knight. It's like if you do knight d7, they might play c5 and go for the squeeze. So we're gonna do this and gonna bring the knights towards the key square d5 like you typically do in the Caro-Kann. The knight from d5, also watch out, it's gonna be attacking f4. That's why it's even more powerful. And by the way, the position that you see now on the board is actually one of the most common ones that you can get in this Gurgenidze. Like I've had games like this against IMs, against GMs. Well, maybe not with the queen specifically on c2, but the pawn structure is literally the same. The bishop is on f2, pawn on h3, knight f3, they'll castle short. This is like really one of those super typical scenarios that you can get. And okay, castling long is definitely super strange here, just putting it mildly. And I could do this, targeting the pawn, queen d2 though. Okay, I'll just start this way, hitting the bishop, and still keeping this as an idea. And okay, I think I'm just gonna play this regardless and following it up with bishop h6. And I don't see how he's willing to defend the f4 pawn. I think that's like his main weakness in this position, even though like king can be pretty weak. Remember that something is weak only if you can attack it, so I'm not sure we can actually get to his king so quickly. Just gonna get my knight into d5 and gonna be playing bishop h6 next. Okay, we see bishop b3, just knight d5, creating huge threat on f4. And I think at this point, or maybe perhaps on the next move, he'll have to do this thing, which is just terrible, strategically speaking. Okay, he just simply missed the fact that we can take the pawn. Can we go for the tricky bishop h6? Do you think he'll play queen d2 and we can win the queen? That would be like pretty hilarious. I'm just gonna go for that because it's fun. Like would be really fun if he plays queen d2. That's like some kind of psychological trick because we can take because he doesn't see knights covering it. But okay, my guess is that's not gonna happen. So this is anyways good move though because the bishop's activating. Notice that the bishop is perhaps a bit restricted by the e5 pawn. So this is actually like really nice because bishop's coming to life. And okay, on knight g5 could take twice, but this is even better. And I'm gonna have like a lot of interesting discoveries on this diagonal after the knight move. So I think knight g5 was a mistake. Probably winning at least the exchange next, if not more. Yeah, knight f3 probably, knight e3 or knight takes on g2 is easiest. Collecting the exchange with sort of an easily winning position. So yeah, knight f3 as expected, could do this check, could do knight e2, could do knight g2. I think knight g2 is just best because we collect another pawn in the process. So yeah, gonna go for that. There's discovery check and gonna be collecting the exchange. We're up a lot in material. King castle sooner or later. Could also perhaps castle long. Haven't decided just yet. Would like to force some trades. How can we force trades? That's the question. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Just gonna play queen e7. Gonna be staying flexible. Could do short, could do long, could play rook d8. Let's just see what opponent wants to do. Because his position is also not so easy to play. Might have like okay, on knight e2, definitely consider taking. Not like an amazing trade, but okay, the knight could be getting to e4 and that might be a little bit annoying, so I think just gonna be chopping it. And yeah, well, we don't have the dart squared bishop, but his dart squared bishop will never really be able to activate because my knight's ready to capture it all the time if it tries to. And I think can easily just go long here, pressure on the d4 pawn, can play king b8. He could go d5, perhaps trying bishop a7, but it's not like you achieve very much with that. I think d5 was maybe only try for him. ED, bishop a7. He's still lost, but at least creating some kind of complications. Otherwise, I'll just slowly double up on the d file and win the pawn on d4 with no counterplay. So from like a swindling perspective, this is the move. And hope for the best. But if you don't play that, I don't think you can realistically create any tricks. Okay, against d5, c5 is hardly a good move because of d6, so don't think that was a good idea. Does it now? He's no longer winning the a7 pawn, so definitely just taking. And on like queen a5, could play b6, could also have blocked the diagonal with d4. Queen f4, looking for some kind of tricks. They just sidestep any nonsense, potentially no need for this move, but just an easy way to deal with any kind of trickery. Idea is to do this and collect e5 pawn. Okay, threatening mate in 1. Let's just shut down that bishop with d4. As long as you don't miss the mate in 1, should be collecting this one. The opponent's still pretty stubborn about that idea, but we can play c5 and just block the whole thing. But easiest, just make sure you take that bishop. This way you know for sure you'll never get mated in 1, in this game at least. So we can do it like this and queen d7. I think that's fine. Do we need to give away the f7 pawn? So like queen d7, bishop takes. Oh, there's just rook f8, sort of finishing the game. So here's like a nice trick, watch out. So rook f8, e6, there's queen e6. Just winning endgame. Threatening to do this. And yeah, just rook f8 pinning, and e6 looks like so good, but then just realize queen takes, and there's actually no counterplay. g5, g4, take, and push the h pawn with a pretty easy and straightforward win. Now we can sack and queen the pawn. No counterplay for opponent. And we managed to get this one in. Okay, we're getting the black pieces and gonna be going for the King's Indian defense and trying out the Gurgenidze system, gc6 and d5. See bishop c4, which is actually helpful for us because d5 comes with a tempo. And yeah, just gonna be taking, attacking the bishop, expecting check. Just gonna play knight c6. Bishop d7 is like also fine, but I mean the bishop on b5 is generally kind of pointless, and this one is actually quite annoying on g4. So if you could do bishop d7, this is perfectly fine, but knight c6 I just think it's like a little bit better in general because the knight belongs to that square, and would be happy to see this trade for sure because it's strengthening our center. And okay, my opponent's a little bit playing with fire. This is like an interesting check, but he simply can block. defending the bishop. I think I'll just do this, breaking the pin. Now this is actually a huge threat, so he probably has to either take the bishop or take twice on c6. I would guess this is best with c3, getting into some kind of a Caro-Kann. Yeah, if he plays c3, so that you know, on a6 he can just go back home to d3. Now we can do this, and we're actually forcing him to take, which is like really nice, because if he doesn't take, he has issues with the pawn, so he can just do b5 and win the d4 pawn. This is also like typical theme from the Caro-Kann, and we managed to steal a pawn. Still, we would need to finish development in order to have a safe position, so definitely we'll take the bishop next, most likely, followed by knight f6 and short castle. I think we should definitely have pretty large advantage in that position with the extra pawn, even though white definitely has some compensation because there are a lot of open lines for his pieces, and it's not gonna be like so easy for me to make progress, but I think should definitely be able to win this one. So bishop g5. If I castle, he probably wants this and knight e5. So thinking about e6, not sure whether queen f3 is actually annoying or not. Kind of is. Maybe I'll have to pin myself. I'm not liking that at all. Yeah, bishop g5 was a good move. Might have to play d4 to keep it under control. So like d4, knight e2, and e5 perhaps best. Yeah, this I think should be the way to go, because in that position it's getting pretty tricky with so many pins. He has maybe interesting move queen f3 that I missed, but then I think can simply castle, and on that stick with a bishop. Knight e4, I think. Okay, so bishop g7 is probably best, then knight c5, queen c6, and we're just up a pawn. Yeah, I was thinking whether we need to rush and allow knight takes on f6, but actually there's no need to allow that, and the bishop is just so strong in this kind of position, so it's important to keep it, and against that I wanted this, attacking and also defending the pawn. I saw he could play queen f3 because can't take the knight since the rook drops, but I think the endgames should generally just be winning for us. And b4, just castle, could undermine the knight next with a5, b takes, we win it. So this is definitely on the agenda, and yeah, if we can play a5, we get rid of the only weakness that we have, the backward pawn on a6. That's definitely gonna be an easy win. And okay, I think this is just helping us again, because opening up bishop's path, and we managed to also pick up a pawn in the process, and also looks like b4 is hanging pretty soon as well. Definitely making a lot of progress in this game. Yeah, taking on b4 with a fork, probably gonna pick up the c5 knight on the next move. Okay, we see knight d7 trying to go for the counter attack. We could just collect the rook, and knight f8, take with a rook, and we're having an extra piece and 3 pawns. So position is definitely an easy win now, especially because the opponent has no threats. So just need to bring the bishop home and start pushing the pawns. Position is easily winning. We'll need to get a rook behind the pawns and just push. Not really much that opponent can do. Yeah, queen c3 could force queens off in the near future. Still, I'm like up so much material. You notice that always going for the queen trade is nice. There's like no shame in trading queens. It just makes it much easier to win all the time. So queen d1, just b3, queen c2, queen a4, pick up the rook with the back ranker, and we managed to get this one in. Thanks a lot for making it this far into the video, and in case you're looking for more episodes from the same series, make sure to click one of the videos that will appear on the screen. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you around on the channel. Take care.